This is Porch Lore. And I'm your host, Devin. This is the tale of the Tree People. Let me tell you about the time I almost died. And I don't mean in some metaphorical, it was so embarrassing I could have died kind of way. I mean, I should not be here to tell you this story. If things had gone just a little differently, I wouldn't be sitting here now. I grew up in Virginia, but a few years ago, I moved to Montana for work. I wanted a fresh start, something different from the suburbs where I'd spent most of my life. And let me tell you, Montana is different. The air is so crisp it hurts in the winter. The sky stretches so wide it feels like you're on another planet. And there are places out there where you can drive for miles without seeing a single house. It's beautiful, but it's also lonely in a way that sneaks up on you. I found that out the hard way when I took a solo weekend trip to a cabin in the middle of nowhere. It had been a long week at work, and I wanted to get away. Just me, a few bottles of wine, and some books I kept telling myself I'd read, but never actually had. The cabin was one of those authentic rustic rentals, where they basically disclose in the listing that there is no Wi-Fi and no TV. Basically, bare necessities, rugged retreat. The kind of place that sounds like a dream until you actually get there and realize you're completely cut off from civilization. The drive alone should have been a warning. My GPS lost signal an hour before I even reached the cabin. The condition of the road kept getting worse. Potholes deep enough to swallow a tire, barely enough space for one car, and trees pressing in on both sides like they were trying to keep me from getting through. I told myself everything was fine. I wanted an adventure, right? When I finally pulled up, the place looked abandoned. The pictures online showed a cute, well-maintained little cabin. But in real life, the porch sagged, the windows looked dirty, and the whole thing had this forgotten, unloved feeling. But at that point, I had been driving for hours, and I wasn't about to just turn around. I just really needed a rest. So I shrugged it off and carried my bags inside. The first night was fine. Mostly. I made a fire, cooked dinner, and read by candlelight because the single overhead light in the living room flickered eerily like something out of a horror movie, and I couldn't stand having it on anymore. The quiet out there was almost too much. In the city, silence isn't really silence. There's always background noise. A car in the distance, a neighbor's dog barking. But out there, it was complete, utter stillness. At some point, I started feeling weird. You know that sensation like you're being watched? I kept glancing at the windows, expecting to see something looking in. But there was nothing. Just darkness so deep it seemed to press against the glass. I laughed at myself, told myself I was just creeped out because I wasn't used to the quiet. And so I decided to go to bed. And that was the last normal night I had. The next day I went for a hike. There was a trail behind the cabin that led up to a ridge, and I figured I'd go check out the view. It was beautiful. But after a while, I got that weird feeling again, like I wasn't alone. I stopped and listened, and nothing. No birds, no rustling leaves, just silence, thick and heavy. Then I saw them. At first, I thought it was just shadows moving between the trees. But then I realized, no, these were figures. Tall, too tall, and thin. They didn't move in a normal way either. Not like people, more like marionettes. Their limbs bending at odd angles as they stepped between the trees, Yep, pretty much the most horrifying way you could imagine a person moving their body. I stood there frozen, watching them in horror. And then, all at once, they stopped. Every single one of them. And they turned their heads towards me. I ran. I don't even remember making the decision to run. My body just took over. The hike up there had taken me almost an hour. But I swear I made it back to the cabin in just a few minutes. I slammed the door shut, locked it, and grabbed the biggest knife I could find from the kitchen. For hours I sat there staring at the windows, listening. But there was nothing. Just silence. After a while, I started to convince myself that maybe I hadn't seen what I thought I had. Maybe the isolation was just getting to me. Maybe I was just freaking myself out. But that night, I woke up to the sound of something tapping on my bedroom window. But the bedroom was on the second floor. The tapping was rhythmic, precise. Not the random scrape of a tree branch, but something deliberate, like someone was knocking. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I just laid there, staring at the ceiling. Then, slowly, I turned my head toward the window, and there was a face pressed against the glass. Not a human face, not even close. The features were all wrong. Too stretched, too smooth, like something trying to look human but failing. It had no eyes, just deep, empty sockets. But I knew it was looking at me. I don't remember screaming, but I must have, because my throat was raw when I finally managed to move. I grabbed my car keys and ran downstairs. I didn't care about my bags. I didn't care about anything except getting the hell out of there. When I yanked open the front door, I stopped dead. There they were, standing in the yard. Dozens of them. Their heads all tilting at the same time, like curious animals as they looked at me. I ran. I don't know how I made it to my car, but I did. The second I got inside, I locked the doors and started the engine. Headlights washed over the trees, and for just a second, I thought they were gone. Then I saw them in the rearview mirror, right behind my car. I gunned it down that awful, narrow road, not even caring if I wrecked. I just needed to get away from them. I didn't look back, not until I was miles away, back on the main road, speeding towards the nearest town. The next day, I called the rental company to ask about the cabin. They acted confused and told me there was no cabin at that location. So I drove back, just to be sure. And sure enough, no cabin. There was nothing there. Just trees. Tall, strangely bent, thin, silent trees. Thanks for joining me, Porch Pals. If any of you have your own spooky or unexplained experiences, I'd love to hear it. Shoot me an email and maybe I'll tell your story next.